Lisa Denae Live starts now, only on Stunner Radio, the heart and soul of the culture.
This show was sponsored in part by Flat Fee Tax Prep and Services, offering quality tax preparation, serving clients nationwide. For more information, visit www.flatfeecreditandtax.com. And don't forget to mention Stunner Radio sent you.
You yourself have suffered great grief just recently with the loss of your mother. And I'm sorry for your family's loss.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering how doing this show or any show, how art itself helps you deal with grief.
Yeah. I love talking about it, by the way. So if I cry, it's only like, it's only a beautiful thing. This is all the unexpressed love, right? The grief that will remain with us, you know, until we pass, because we never get enough time with each other, right? Mm-hmm. No matter if someone lives till 60, 15 or 99. So I hope this grief stays with me, because it's all the unexpressed love that I didn't get to tell her. And I told her every day. We all told her every day. She was the best of us.
I know that you yourself have suffered great grief.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lisa Denae Live. What you have been listening to is an interview with Andrew Garfield, where he expressed his definition of grief. So once again, welcome to Lisa Denae Live. We are going to be talking about coping with grief during the holiday season. So I wanted to share that with you, a little excerpt from that interview that is courtesy of the Instagram of Adam Grant. If you don't follow him, please go follow him at Adam Grant on Instagram. He has a lot of good things and a lot of words of wisdom for you. So I wanted to talk about coping with grief during the holiday season. So if you're just tuning in, you didn't hear that clip, what he said in the interview was speaking about the loss of his mother is that grief is unexpressed love. And I want to say that I had never heard that I haven't heard that as a definition. So I wanted to share that with you, because sometimes and somehow, some way, we have been taught that grief is something you get through, you go through, and it insinuates that there's an end to grief. But I'm here to let you know that grief can be a lifelong experience. It's something that you may never stop doing. And I want to say that that is okay. So let's try to look at grief a little differently. So before we get into it, hi, hello, how y'all doing? It is Black Friday, as they call it, Black Friday. You know, I stopped celebrating Black Friday many years ago because I call Black Friday Black Male Appreciation Day. So yeah, boy, shout out to all the Black men and boys out there. I love you. I appreciate you. I've been celebrating Black Male Appreciation Day for years. I feel like I made it up. So I don't know how y'all feel about it, but that's what I do on Black Friday. I show appreciation to the Black men and boys in my life. So Thanksgiving is over, and most of you are looking forward to the holiday season. I know I am looking toward the holiday season. So before we go into that, please show the Black men and Black boys some love today for your girl. Please, will you, ma'am and sir? Now, I want to give a special shout out to all our international listeners. I mean, you guys rock with us so heavy. Thank you so much in the Philippines and Germany, Ghana, Italy, Albania, Mexico, the Ukraine, Botswana, all these places that rock with us on Stunner Radio and on Lisa Denae Live. I want to thank you for your continued support. Also want to give a shout out to all my people here in the United States, to my family in Chicago, in Michigan, in Ohio, in Indiana, the whole Midwest, the best of the Midwest. That's what we are. Shout out to y'all. If I missed anyone, please put it in the comments as you're watching the show. Let me know where you're watching or listening from. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please put replay in the comments, because I really want to tell you, I want to shout you out. I want to know where you're listening from, where you're sharing this from. So Today marks the official start of the holiday shopping season for a lot of people, and I want you to know that we are here for you at Stunner Radio. We have put together a holiday gift guide for you, a holiday gift guide just for you, so that you can have wonderful, one-of-a-kind, unique gifts that are put together and are presented to you, supplied to you by Black-owned companies, woman-owned companies, and veteran-owned companies. We like to support small businesses. So as you know, tomorrow is Small Business Saturday. So please go to www.stunnerradio.com/holiday gift guide to check out the gifts that we have for you. So now we're going to get into it, y'all. Grief. Grief, by definition, is defined as deep sorrow, a deep feeling of sorrow, usually due to the death of a loved one, or it can be caused by any type of loss. That's something that I really want to make a point of tonight. Grief does not always occur just because of a death. Sometimes grief occurs with any loss. The loss of a relationship, the loss of a friendship, the loss of a job. Financial losses can cause grief, but grief is somewhat difficult to deal with during the holiday season because this is a time of the year when everybody's happy. Everybody's upbeat. It's Christmas cheer. Everybody's feeling good. Strangers are talking to each other. People are helping each other with their packages. Neighbors are getting to know each other during the holiday season because for some reason, we all feel happy around the holiday season. So for people that are dealing with grief, this can be a very difficult time of the year. So I want to talk about this and go into the 7 stages of grief. Now, if you're just tuning in, I played a clip earlier where a young man was talking about grief and he defined it as unexpressed love. And that is a beautiful definition. And although by definition it's the dictionary defines grief as deep sorrow, I like to look at it as unexpressed love because we never have enough time with each other. That's another thing the young man had said in the clip. No matter how long you have with a person, somehow it's never enough. So when you have lost a loved one and you're going through grief, I want you to know that it is okay to still have that reserve of unexpressed love that we cannot not give to them now because they are no longer here with us, but we still have the love in our heart and we still need to express it, and somehow that is expressed through our grief. So let's get into it. So I know most people know about the 7 stages of grief. There are 7 stages of grief. And, you know, this is something that you go through when you go through grief counseling. You learn about the 7 stages of grief. Now, I want to say that sometimes, some people feel like these stages are in order, but I want to say that during my research for this episode, I discovered that grief comes differently to different people. I guess I always knew that in my life, but I want to say that when we're talking about grief, we say the 7 stages of grief, but according to Deborah Bronstad, who is a grief recovery specialist, and you can go to her website, stagesofgrief.com, the term stages is somewhat deceiving because it suggests that a progression happens. You go from this stage to that stage, and that is not always the case. In reality, these stages are more like examples of things you may go through when you're grieving, emotions you may feel when you're in a state of grieving. They may happen all at once. They may happen together. They may happen separately. They may not happen after each other or before each other. And in addition to that, you may experience other symptoms and signs and emotions that are not listed in the 7 stages of grief. So I do want to make that clear. And I also want to encourage you to check out Deborah Bronstad. She is a grief recovery specialist. Stages of Grief Recovery.com is her website. It was a very useful resource for me while I was doing research for this episode. So let's get into it. 7 stages of grief. The first is shock and denial. The second is pain and guilt. Anger and bargaining is 3. Depression is 4. The upward turn is 5. Then you have 6, which is reconstruction and working through your grief. And then 7, acceptance and hope. And again, like I stated before, grief can manifest itself in different ways for different people. Some people experience grief for all types of reasons. You do not have to justify your grief. There's no time limit on your grief. And although there are 7 stages of grief, again, it does not mean that you will go through these things one after the other in this type of order, or that once you reach acceptance and hope, you won't come back to anger and bargaining, or you won't come back to pain and guilt. Grief is a real deal thing. And I thought it was very important for us to discuss this because grief can kill you. Grief can be a killer. If you do not have hope with your grief, if you're having difficulty managing grief, reach out to someone. I want to also say that social media is a very useful tool when you're grieving. Your expressions of grief, getting those out on social media is very helpful for a lot of people. So those that are watching your feed or those that are not in grief themselves and seeing your posts, I want to encourage you to have patience with people. Don't feel like a person has a certain amount of time to grieve. I remember being a child and hearing about an adult, oh, he's still grieving the death of his wife. Oh, they still grieving this death, or oh, he's still grieving. And it seemed to me that other people were saying it in a way like this person should be over it. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all, because I felt like grief is something that there is no time limit on. Nobody can tell you how long you should be grieving. Nobody can tell you how to grieve. So if you are coping with grief right now during the holiday season, love on yourself, hug on yourself. We're going to talk later in the broadcast about ways that you can cope with grief during the holidays, because unfortunately it gets a little tough. You know, when those memories of your loved ones start popping up, it's very, very, very difficult. I am a witness. I'm currently coping with it myself. So I'm going to be right here with you. And if you or someone you love is coping right now with grief, please stay tuned. And we're going to talk more about how to cope with grief during the holiday season. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with coping with grief during the holidays. It's Lisa Denae Live right here on Stunner Radio. We'll be right back. Are you looking for the perfect gift this holiday season? Great, I have something just for you. It's the Stunner Radio Holiday Gift Guide with amazing products from Black-owned, woman-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. We've curated an amazing list just for you. So visit www.stunnerradio.com/holiday gift guide to check it out. And don't forget to mention Stunner Radio sent you. I hate you, but I love you at the same damn time. Hey, it's your girl Lisa Denae, and you're listening to my single Love Hate, available now on all music platforms. The words you say, I just can't make up my mind. Sometimes I think I hate you, but I love you the same damn time. All right, we're back, and we are talking about the 7 stages of grief. We're actually talking about coping with grief during the holiday season. Thank you so much for being with me on this episode of Lisa Denae Live. I am so, this is a really important and a big episode for me because, again, like I said before, I myself am coping with grief this holiday season. 2020, my God, 2020. And now even 2021 has been a challenging experience for a lot of people. I mean, I have seen so much loss in my timeline personally that I know there are a lot of people that are coping with grief right now during the holiday season. So let's get into it. The 7 stages of grief. I want to talk a little bit about shock and denial. That's the first stage you go through, shock. I mean, you know, when someone leaves you or someone passes away, especially in an unexpected sudden death or unexpected death, you have a sense of shock. You go into shock, and people experience shock in different ways as well. So shock and denial happens in your first stage of grief, because at first you just can't believe it. You just can't believe this is happening. And what we normally say is, I just talked to this person, or I just saw them, I was just with them. It's hard to process. It is so hard to understand that they're gone forever. It is very, very tough. For me, I know that stage of shock and denial, it stayed longer than I thought that it would stay. I thought that eventually I would understand once I see the funeral, once I see that this person's really gone, I would be able to move forward and not feel that sense of denial. But when you talk to someone all the time, or when someone's a big part of your life and all of a sudden they're gone, it's shocking. It shocks your system. It's like emotionally, you still can't process it. I remember losing a friend, and I swear to you, I heard his voice all the time. I could hear him talking to me, and I'd just be looking around like, what is going on? Like, maybe he's not really gone. Maybe I got the wrong information. I was going through a stage of grief. And that's according to this 7 stages of grief, that is the first stage, shock and denial. You may also feel during this stage a sense of numbness. And, you know, we see this a lot when people lose someone unexpectedly. It's like you don't feel nothing. You just feel numb. And your system is going into shock. You feel numb. You're not really sure what's happening. You're trying to process it, but it's kind of like your mind is jammed with all these different emotions, and you just stop feeling at all. You just don't feel nothing. That is one of the biggest parts of the initial stage of grief. It's like you feel so much till you just don't feel nothing. That numbness. So we're going to move on to stage 2. And again, these don't necessarily occur in order for people. And then it doesn't mean if you come out of one stage, you'll never go back to it again. Believe you me, it is very complicated. So pain and guilt. I feel like pain is self-explanatory. Losing someone you love, losing a relationship, or losing someone to death, or, you know, any type of loss is painful, especially when it happened suddenly. You were not prepared for it. I can recall in 2020 when Kobe Bryant died in that tragic, horrific accident. I'm telling you, I was on my way to the mall, and I remember sitting in my car and I just couldn't move. I couldn't move. No, I did not know him personally, but the Lakers, the team, the Los Angeles Lakers, has been a part of my life since I was a child. So of course I followed every player, and I just was a fan. You know, I was a huge fan. And so for him to be gone, I just couldn't process it. I just sat in my car for hours. I literally could not move. And this is somebody that I never met in real life. So imagine someone who knew him. And then days after that, I lost a very, very dear friend to murder. And I felt in that time the pain of it all. It just seemed so overwhelming. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I mean, I was walking around in a fog. I couldn't even really get my thoughts together at times. I would have these crying fits, just the pain would hit me out of nowhere. And I just did not know how I was going to make it through the next day, because it was just so painful to be hit all of a sudden with this. So pain and guilt is the second stage. Now, the guilt of it, because once you know somebody's gone forever, you think of all your past conversations. You think of all your arguments. You think of everything that you said to each other. You think of all your disagreements, and you feel a sense of guilt. I should have told them I loved them more. I should have told them, how much they meant to me, how important they were to me. And even if you told them, somehow that guilt creeps up, and you feel like you could have done more. You feel like you could have been there more. You could have saw them more. talked to them or visited them more. It's a natural process. So don't feel bad if you're in a stage of pain and guilt. The pain may never go away. The guilt subsides because as we go on in life, we understand that we are only human. And so we are human, and being human, we have disagreements, we have arguments, we have fallen outs, even with the people that we love. And when those people are no longer here, we feel guilty. But we can't turn back the clock. As much as we want to turn back the clock and make things right, we can't. So in that stage, you just have to keep moving forward because, I mean, the guilt can eat you alive if you allow it to. So the next stage of grief is anger and bargaining. Now, when I was doing my research for this, I literally felt like I don't relate to this as far as the bargaining. I did feel the anger. I continue to feel the anger. The anger over the death of my friend has not left me. It has not left me, and I don't know if it will ever leave me. The anger makes you feel a certain type of way toward other people that knew them, especially people who may have known what was going on. Sometimes you could be angry at yourself, just angry at the world. When someone is taken away from you in a violent way, the grief is different. The grief is crippling when someone is taken from you in a violent way. The grief that you feel can literally cripple you. So in that stage of anger and bargaining, you have to be so careful not to lash out at the people around you. It's okay to let people know I'm going through something. I'm grieving right now. And when you're in that third stage of grief, that anger and bargaining, you can lash out. I remember feeling at the beginning stages of my grief over my friend, I was angry at the world. Not only was I angry at myself, I was angry at him. I was angry at his family. I was angry at the person that killed him. I was angry at everybody. The anger was overwhelming. I even felt some sense of anger at God because I felt like, why didn't you help him? Why didn't you stop this? You could have stopped this. Why didn't you tell me I could have went over there? Why did this have to happen? And that's where the bargaining comes in. In this stage, the anger and the bargaining, this is a time when we start to question God and we start to question the powers that be. Like, why did this have to happen? Can we go back? Is there anything I can change? What can I do to change this? Unfortunately, in your stages of grief, we don't think rationally. And so we know that death is final. There's nothing we could do to change it. But in your stage of grief, of anger and bargaining, sometimes you may want to go against fate and question, why did this have to happen? Is there anything I can do? Can we turn back the clock? Grief counseling can help with this because we all know that we can't turn back the clock. There's nothing we could do, but we can work through the anger and the resentment. Sometimes when you have someone that you've lost in your life and the people that know that person too, they've lost them too. Unfortunately, your anger can be turned against each other. And that's what we don't want to happen in the holiday season. When you know somebody is going through grief, give them space. Give them space to feel the anger. For me, it was very difficult for me to feel the anger because I didn't even know who I was mad at. And part of it was mad at my friend for not being here. And so that made me feel even worse. Like, it's not his fault that he's not here. He was taken away. He was murdered. It's not like he just left me. So that anger was something that I'm still working on. I'm telling you, I'm still processing it. So the anger and bargaining, it may last a little longer. For me, it's lasting longer. If you want to talk about this, you tell me what you're going through. Tell me what stage you're in. Let's talk about it. The fourth stage is depression, reflection, and it can also be loneliness. This lasts long too. I mean, I'm just wanting to let you know that there's no time limit on any of these stages. That depression and that reflection, sometimes it hits you at the most inopportune times. And the holidays can be one because when we reach a holiday, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Thanksgiving, whether it's New Year's, you always think of the last Christmas or the last Thanksgiving or last New Year's or your favorite one. And when you have recently lost somebody and you think about the last Christmas with that person, that can lead to a real sense of depression because you know that you'll never have that again. And the one thing I can say is seek help. Don't go through this alone because the depression and the loneliness of it all, it could kill you in itself. The loneliness of feeling like nobody else knows how this feels, to be missing someone and to feel such a sense of loss. So I want to encourage you, if you're in this stage of grief where you're lonely and you're depressed and you can't stop thinking about the memories, you just keep reflecting on the last conversation, the good days, the bad days. Don't rush this stage, but do get help in this stage because this can be a very toxic stage for you if you don't get help and if you turn on yourself. That's what I want to encourage you not to do. Don't turn on yourself. You have to continue to be your own best friend in this season. And this part of grief can be very lonely and very, very harmful if you do not seek help. There's help in form of counseling. Talk to someone you love. Also, social media, like I stated before, can be very helpful to process your feelings and just express your grief. So I want to move past the fourth stage and go on to the fifth one, which is the upward turn. This is what they're calling this, the upward turn. So in this sense, you're starting to adjust to life without this person. You're starting to adjust to your new normal, your new life. I mean, it's an adjustment period. It's a period of adjusting and understanding that my life now has changed. This person is no longer here. Your physical symptoms, like those belly aches, the headaches, the crying, the physical symptoms may subside a little bit during this stage of grief. The upward turn, that's why it's kind of called upward, and your depression may start to lighten and ease up a little bit during this part of your grief. This is the part of the grieving process where you'll start to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. You'll start to rest in those memories. You'll start to exist in the love of that person, and you might even find some laughter. You might be thinking of all the funny things and all the fun times and all the weird, quirky things that this person had about them. I know for me, when I think about my friend, I think about all the crazy things he used to say and all the weird responses he used to have to me. And I also think about how he could say stuff to me that other people couldn't get away with. And that's funny to me because he knew he had that, he had that space with me. So this is a part of grief where you start to feel more strengthened. You start to feel more motivated. You start to come back a little bit to your old self in this stage of grief, which is being called the upward turn. So in this stage of grief, you find yourself just reminiscing on the old times, reminiscing on the love you had. Hey, shout out to Mary J. Blige. And, it's light at the end of the tunnel. Now we're on to the sixth stage of grief, which is reconstruction and working through your new life without the loved one. So as you become more functional, as you become more used to your new normal, your mind starts working again, because when you're in grief, somehow you feel like your mind turned off. It's like a mental fog. It is very hard to describe, but if you're going through it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So in this sixth stage of grief, it's kind of like your mind starts working again and your heart starts beating again, and you start to find yourself seeking realistic solutions to the problems that have been posed by life without this person. So this is the real part of grief. This is where it starts to really get real, because there's a hole. There's this hole when this person is gone. There's this hole when you've lost a loved one. And sometimes there's a hole in a very real way. When people lose people that are in their household, that's a huge hole, gaping hole. So you have to start to pick up the pieces. And this is where you start reconstructing your life. You may change the room around that they used to be in. You may find a new place for their things. You may give away some things. You may learn to move on. It doesn't mean that you're instantly happy. It doesn't mean that you're done grieving, but it does mean that you are getting on with it and that you're starting to accept it. You're accepting it and you're starting to see hope that the pain will not be as unbearable. So this is the part of grief number 7. This is the 7 in the 7 stages of grief. So one thing I wanted to say that I feel like is very important, you can have experienced the loss many, 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 many years ago and feel like you've gone through all these 7 stages, but I guarantee you something as significant as the holiday season can bring you all the way back to stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. And you feel like, why is this happening? I thought I was done with this. I thought I was okay. But I want to encourage you that it's okay to go through it as long as you need to go through it. You know, we're human beings. We love hard, we grieve. Sometimes we grieve hard. So be easy on yourself. Be loving to yourself. Don't put a time limit on your grief. Yes, these are 7 stages of grief. And yes, there is a beginning and there is an end. But that does not mean that these things happen in order. It doesn't mean it won't come back around. So I want to encourage you to be easy. Be easy on yourself. Be loving to yourself. If you are right now going through these 7 stages of grief, process it, live in it. And remember at the beginning of the show where I said that grief is unexpressed love. So we love these people that are no longer here. And we want to express the love the way we used to. We used to be able to reach out and touch them. We used to be able to call them. We used to be able to go hang out with them. We don't have that anymore. So this reserve of love is just sitting there and it hurts. So I would encourage you to sit in that, enjoy that. I know that society makes us want to move on, get past it, get over it. But there are some people that leave your life you will never, ever get past. You will never be over it. And I want to let you know that is so okay. That is so okay if you never get over it. It's your love. It's your unexpressed love. Keep it in your heart. Don't rush through it. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back on some tips on how to cope with grief during the holiday season. It's Lisa Denae Live right here on Stunner Radio. We'll be right back. Hey, it's your girl Lisa Denae, and I want to tell you about a product that has changed my life. Rain Premium Sanitary Napkins. Rain products are infused with a Nobel Prize-winning material called graphene. It's the graphene strip that provides the various health benefits that can improve your quality of life during that time of the month. Listen, I've been very loyal to a certain brand of feminine products, but I've never experienced the results I get with Rain products. The difference is in the graphene strip. Using Rain products has totally eliminated the painful cramps I experience, and it can also help balance your body's pH, eliminate harmful bacteria, and help fight fatigue. Graphene moves heat away from your core to keep you cool and comfortable. Ladies, it's time to upgrade your feminine care with products that not only offer protection, but also improve your health and wellness. Place your order today and receive your premium sanitary napkins delivered directly to your door. Visit www.drfcare.com to make your purchase today. And don't forget to mention that your girl Lisa Denae and Stunner Radio sent you. All right, we're back. Thank you so much for tuning in with me on this episode of Lisa Denae Live. We're talking about coping with grief during the holidays. So just for a brief recap, we talked about the 7 stages of grief, and I wanted to make it very clear and really just go over the fact that although these are called stages, it does not mean that they're going to happen in a particular order, and there's absolutely no time limit on your grief. So we talked about the fact that the holiday season can be a most difficult time to be experiencing grief. Let me take a little sip of my tea. Sipping on some lemon ginger tea tonight. So the holiday season, because everybody's in such an upbeat mood, everybody's feeling good, and everybody's with their friends and family and loved ones, it can be a very hard time to be experiencing grief. So I want to give some tips. I want to give some tips and things that can help you cope with grief during the holidays. And believe you me, these are helping me. I'm doing this show because I know people that are dealing with grief personally right now. And I myself personally am dealing with grief right now during the holiday season. It is not an easy task. So let me give you some tips and some pointers on dealing with grief. The first one is trust the grief. Trust the grief. Trust that this is part of the healing process. Do not rush through your grief. You have to go through the grief in order to heal from the pain and the injury, the trauma of losing a loved one. It's very traumatic. It can be very damaging to your emotions and to your spiritual being, and even physically. You can become physically ill from grief. So I want to say, trust the process. Trust that grief is part of the healing process. Don't try to escape it. Don't let anybody rush you through it. And even during the holidays, if you know that you're dealing with it and you don't want to feel rushed or you don't want to be a downer, listen, don't take that upon yourself. It may be tempting to pretend that, oh, I'm happy, it's the holiday season. Trust the fact that I'm in grief. I'm grieving. I'm happy for everybody who's happy, but right now I'm missing someone. I'm grieving the loss of a loved one. And don't numb the pain with alcohol or substances or food. That is a huge trap that a lot of us find ourselves in when we're in grief, and we just want to fit in with everybody else who's so happy. So we'll just numb the pain or mask the pain by drinking, partying, overindulging in food or sex or shopping, because, during the holiday season, it's okay to overindulge. But I want to tell you that it's never okay to overindulge when it's hurting you. Trust the process of grief. And during the holiday season, my next tip is to set boundaries with people. So you may not go to every function. And whoever, however, whenever is just going to have to understand. When you are grieving and you're going through the grief process, you got to set firm, strong, healthy boundaries. You cannot go to every function if you know it's going to bring you down. You don't want to have to fake the funk, as we say. You don't want to have to fake it. If you're not feeling it, just don't go. If you're not feeling it, don't be a part of it. You have to set the boundaries for you. Other people may try to convince you to participate and say, oh, you don't want to be alone. Oh, this will make you feel better. And in the truth of it all, it may not make you feel better, because the fact of the matter is, when you're grieving, nothing can make you feel better. Nothing. Things can numb the pain. It can take your mind of it, but the feel better, it's not even realistic. So set healthy boundaries during the holidays. Another thing is, during the holiday season, focus on the things you can control, like your environment, your home, your music, your movies, because I'm telling you, the weirdest things can trigger you when you're grieving. The weirdest things, a song that you used to listen to all the time with your loved one, or a song to remind you of them, or a place that you used to go together, or, something that they love, their favorite food. When you're eating it, it just triggers you. You think them. You can control those things. So focus on the things you can control. Like, when you do go, maybe limit some things, limit your exposure to certain things that will trigger you. You can control that, because I think that socially it's very difficult to grieve, because we feel uncomfortable when people are grieving around us. A lot of people feel uncomfortable even when they see somebody crying, or when they see somebody sad. It's like, we're gonna rush you through it. Oh no, don't cry. How many times have you heard somebody say, don't cry? If I'm crying, don't cry is not what I need to hear. I'm going to cry. And don't apologize for your tears. I know it's a hard thing to learn, because a lot of times I see people grieving and they say, I'm sorry. I do it myself. A couple of times here recently, I was listening to some music and I was at work and it just hit me and I just started to cry. I couldn't control my tears. I could not control the pain of it all. And I started to cry. And someone was near me and they knew what I was going through and they was like, it's okay. And I said, I'm sorry. And I had to catch myself. And don't apologize for your grief. This is a natural thing. We all are going to experience this at one time or another in our life. And we all may never come out of it. I'm telling you, it's something that it's misleading to say stages. It's misleading to make you feel like you're going to go through it, because sometimes you never get through it. It can be a continual thing. So again, focus on the things you can control, like limit your exposure to the things that you know are going to trigger your pain or trigger your sadness during the holiday season. It's very difficult to do, but there are some things that you can control. Another thing I want to say about it is plan ahead. Plan ahead. When you know you're going to be going through the holiday season without a loved one and you still have mutual friends, you have mutual family members, look, just plan ahead to know I'm going to have to leave early. There's some things I'm not going to be able to do with y'all. There's some things that I need to let y'all know I may not be okay being a part of this year because I'm dealing with some grief. And that's okay. Hey, Dr. Terry Parks, we are talking about dealing with grief and coping with grief during the holiday season. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I want I really want to encourage you all. One thing I saw a lot of before I experienced grief myself was people being uncomfortable around people who are grieving and like rushing them through it, pushing them through it. And I want to say that, I mean, that's not helpful. It's not helpful. And to put a time limit on it and make it feel like, oh my God, he's still talking about his mother. His mother died 20 years ago. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let people live. Let people experience their grief in their way, because it's enough that you got to fake to be happy all the time on social media. So now you got to fake to be happy, even though you've lost someone. You have lost someone. Grief is just unmet expectations. Dr. Terry Park says grief is just unmet expectations. I do agree with that. Things that I said when I lost one of my good friends, I didn't expect him to not be here. I couldn't even imagine a life without him. Like him not here, what? And even though I have worked through some of the hardest and toughest parts of grief, that one part of acceptance is still very difficult for me to master. I know that it's real, but have I fully accepted it? Sometimes I haven't. And like I said, sometimes I still hear his voice. Sometimes I still smell his cologne. Sometimes I still hear things he said to me. It's a strange mental space to be in. But I don't want you to be suffering during the holidays, feeling like you have to be fake. Look, when you're grieving, set those boundaries with people. And believe in the fact that this is part of your healing and you got to go through the process. One other thing I want to say that helps me out is find a way to honor your memories. You know, a person that was in your life and was important to you, they were in your life for a reason. Find a way to honor their memory. And I want to say, I really thought I was going to get through this episode without shedding a tear. I don't know why I thought that. But when I think about honoring the memories of my friend, I started Stunner Radio because of my friend. He was so encouraging to me. I met him through doing my show, Lisa Denae Live. And he became a fast friend, like instant supporter. And he always said, you need your own radio station. And for me, I was just like, man, I ain't trying to do all that. But him not being here, I mean, it was just so unexpected, an unexpected, a tragic death. And for me, it was unmet expectations because I just never expected him not to be here. I never expected there to be a time in my life when I couldn't pick up the phone and call him. I never expected there to be a time in my life where I couldn't listen to his corny jokes and, you know, expect all his stories about the kids and and everything that he just talked for hours on the phone with me about. I never expected that to happen. So I have had to find a way to honor the memories that I have with him. And that has really helped me through my grief. So that's a tip I wanted to add for you this holiday season. Find a way to honor your memories. I don't know if it's an ornament to hang on your tree, if it's a big, beautiful ribbon with that person's name on it, whatever it is, honor your memories, because at this point in time, that's all we got. All we got is our memories. So find you a good friend that you can talk about these memories with, because it's hard when now all you have is memories. But hold on to those memories. I want to also give you a tip is create new traditions. So sometimes when you lose someone so close to you, you had traditions with them. You would either drink eggnog or go out shopping together on Black Friday. Whatever you did traditionally with that person, you have to accept the fact that that's gone. It's very difficult. Trust me, I'm going through it myself. Create new traditions, though. Creating new traditions will help you through this grief process. Not a replacement, but something new. Because part of this grief struggle is that it's a transition for our life. It's a transition for who we are as a person. We have transitioned to a different part of our lives. And so in this part of our life, we need some new traditions. So get you a friend, find somebody who perhaps is going through the same thing, and create a new tradition with them. Let's do something around the holidays, something that we can look forward to, a new tradition. That is a tip that is helping me. You can even alter some of the old traditions that you had with your loved one. I remember being a little girl, and one of the toughest losses I ever experienced was the loss of my grandfather. And even to this day, it's very difficult for me to talk about him without tearing up, even though it's been years. It's been about 20 years since my grandfather passed away, but he was always the man around the holiday seasons. I mean, he made the best sweets, the best cakes. And I mean, he was always looking forward to my fashion. When I went over for Christmas, my granddaddy would always say, "Here come my grandbaby with them big old legs." He used to say she got them big old pretty legs. And sometimes I think about that when I feel like I got on a dress that's too short, or some shorts that's too short. I think about my granddad, who used to say I got them big old pretty legs, and I just show them big old pretty legs in honor of my grandfather. So do something to keep your memories alive. Create new traditions. My biggest tip that I want to leave with you, my second to biggest, this is a big one, but my last one is going to be the biggest one. But my biggest tip that I want to leave with you about coping with grief through the holidays is do something kind for somebody else. That is something that really helps. I mean, you wouldn't think so, but giving something or doing something kind for somebody else, it really takes the focus off you. It really helps you forget about what you're going through, just even for a short period of time, because we all know that no matter what you're going through, somebody else going through something else, somebody else going through something worse. So do something, do some acts of kindness, just do something nice for somebody, just even as simple as giving a compliment or bringing somebody a cup of coffee on the job. Just do something sweet, something nice, something kind. Bring some joy into somebody else's life, the way your loved one that is no longer here brought that joy into your life. Do something kind for someone. That will really help you cope during this holiday season. Now, my last tip for coping with grief during the holidays: get help. I can't say this enough. I cannot say this enough, especially for Black people, African American people. Seek help. Yes, Jesus is your friend. Yes, he's a wonderful counselor, but I'm also need you to seek another counselor. Get help. Grief counseling is so important. I didn't think that I would ever need grief counseling because I've lost people in my life, but to lose someone to murder, to lose someone to unexpected, tragic death, You have to get some help with that. You have to seek help. I'm telling you, you got to get help. Search for a grief counselor in your area. If you know Dr. Terry L. Parks, he is a counselor. I don't know if he specializes in grief, but I know he can point you to someone who does. So if you've seen his comments on this broadcast, and you know him, and you don't have any other resources, reach out to him. Reach out to me. I have resources in my research for this episode and dealing with my own grief. I have found that there are lots of grief counselors out there. There's lots of programs, there's support groups, there's Facebook groups for people that are going through grief, loss of loved ones, loss of children, loss of spouses. There's lots of help out there. But if you don't seek the help's not going to fall out the sky. The help is not going to come to you. So my encouragement, my biggest tip for coping with grief through the holiday season is ask for help. Even if it's not professional help, talk to your friends. Why have friends if you can't depend on them when you need them the most? Talk to your people and ask for help. Let people know if you are struggling. Let people know if you are going through. And I'm preaching to myself because it's very difficult for me to ask for help. That is one of the biggest issues I have in my personal life is when I need help, it's very hard for me to ask for it. But I want to encourage you as I grow in this, that hopefully you will grow in it too. Ask for help. Don't be ashamed of your grief. Don't be ashamed that you're sad. Don't be ashamed. Ask for help. For me, this whole issue of grief has been very eye-opening to me because I thought that it would get easier. I really believe the old adage, time heals all wounds. But I'm going to just be honest with you. It don't. It don't. I mean, sometimes it get easier, but I'm telling you, you can experience a trigger, some triggering event, some triggering song, a word, a passing expression from someone that could take you all the way back to the very beginning of your grief. It's like it just happened. And that's something that I wasn't prepared for. I didn't know. As much as I heard people talk about how they feel when they lose a loved one, I never knew that it could just hit you out the blue. You could be fine. You could be perfectly fine, having a wonderful day. But all of a sudden, it will hit you and it will come down on you like a ton of bricks. And ain't nothing you could do but sit in it. Ain't nothing you could do but sit there. I don't want you to go to substances. I don't want us to self-medicate because we need to understand that it's part of the process. And in order to heal, we have to sit in it. We have to experience it. We have to go through it. So I want to encourage you during the holiday season, reach out for help. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your church family, talk to your loved ones, get a professional help, get a counselor, join a support group, use social media, reach out to people. It's okay to ask for help. And I want to just bust one of these myths. Everybody ain't happy during the holidays because, like I said at the beginning of the episode, grief is not just for the loss of a loved one. There are people who are in grief because they don't even have a family anymore. You can go through a divorce and be in grief because you don't have the family that you had before. Your house is empty. Your Christmas tree is empty. You are alone. That causes grief. It does not have to be the death of a loved one for you to be experiencing grief. So I want to encourage you, if you don't do anything else this holiday season, if you are going through grief, do this one thing. Ask for help. We are all human. You are not alone. It is okay to not be okay. And just because everybody's bubbly and happy and holiday season and we all listening to Mariah Carey and we all feeling good and we spending our coins and we just drinking up, tossing back shots, it's okay to not feel that. It's okay to be wherever you are in your area and in your part, in your stage of grief. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you have questions, if you have comments, please put it in the comments section. Even if you are currently tuning into the replay, put it in the comments. I will come back and I will have a chat where we will talk about this because I learned in a very hard way that grief is real and grief can kill you. Grief can overwhelm you and consume you. If you are in that stage of grief where you feel depressed and you feel lonely and you feel sad, ask for help. ask for help. I can't say that enough. That's why I keep repeating it. And we're literally talking to myself because I have been grieving, and it's been a very difficult time. And I want to let go of the expectations that it's going to get better, because it may not. It's just going to be a new normal for me. And so I want to encourage you, if you're grieving the loss of a loved one, hold on to your beautiful memories. Hold on to the love, because as I said in the beginning, grief is unexpressed love. We may not be able to express it in a physical form anymore, but we can express it spiritually, and we can express it in our creativity, in our life practices. Whatever we do, do it in the name of that person. And on that note, this show, this episode, this broadcast is dedicated to the memory of my friend, Kenneth Toussaint. Kenneth Toussaint. He used to say Toussaint, and I say, man, your name is Toussaint. He was like, how you gonna tell me how to pronounce my own name? It's Toussaint. Affectionately known as Pastor Ken. He was a wonderful, amazing friend, a wonderful man, a wonderful father. And my life has been forever changed because I met him. My life has been forever changed because he was taken away from us in such a brutal, horrific way. And my life has been forever changed because of the love that he showed me and the love that I have for him. So I want to encourage you to dedicate whatever you can to the loss, the memory, the love of your loved one. This is Lisa Denae signing out. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I hope this episode has helped you. It's been very difficult for me to get through it, but look, we did it. We did it. I got through it. And I'm praying for you. My heart goes out to you. If you're dealing with grief, believe you me, I get it. And I'm here. And we're going to pray for each other. We're going to lift each other up. It's the holiday season. And yes, we want to enjoy. But I also want you to take care of you. Be good to you. Be kind to you. Take it easy. I'll see you on the next episode.